Welcome back to Behind the Decks DJ podcast with me, Camberwell Jack. Of course, on this episode, I have another very special guest, BBC Radio 1 Extra resident, Nike resident, tour DJ, 3 times DMC team winner and turntablist, DJ Cable.
DJ Cable. Yo, what's up? Appreciate it, man. I don't really know what to say. Yeah. Hi. How you doing? Good to see you.
So, you've got 15 years experience as a club DJ, tour DJ, mixtape DJ, radio DJ, and turntablist. Now, there's a few certain DJs that I check for on Twitter who I think are very vocal with their opinions on DJing, the industry, the art. I think you're one of them. I can sense that you're quite passionate about it. So that's why I wanted to get you on, talk about DJing.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a big mouth, haven't I?
It's all kind of stuff that I look at and I'm like, that is a good topic to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, with 140 or whatever characters it is, it's not that easy to expand.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to kind of get your point across in a tweet, unless you start writing like a massive thread. And, not a lot of people see the messages underneath. They just kind of take like the main tweet as face value and then sometimes kind of misinterpret it. But yeah, I'm passionate about this, man. I mean, I've dedicated like over half my life to it, even when I wasn't like playing out and stuff, you know what I mean? So for something that I've invested that amount of time in, and even prior to DJing, like collecting music and discovering new music, and I guess being that guy in the classroom who was always like trying to put people onto like new. Can I swear on this? Is that all right? Okay, cool. Trying to put people onto new. Yeah, like I take this very, very seriously, and I guess sometimes it comes across as maybe being a bit bitter for some people, but I just want DJs just to realise it's not all about like going on a record pool and downloading, what's like the top like 20 trending songs and just going out doing your gig. Like there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more to kind of what being a DJ is, as opposed to just kind of being a jukebox that plays the biggest hits for the crowd in front of you. People used to go to see a DJ to hear stuff that they weren't familiar with. Do you know what I mean? That kind of sense of discovery, I guess, has probably been lost over the years with what we're streaming and how things are kind of marketed and packaged to people. But I'm always kind of like telling people, look, you've got all this stuff around, you've got all this information, all this technology, like just be the best you can be. Do you know what I mean? Like don't settle for like mediocre stuff.
I hear exactly what you're saying. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit then about your backstory? Like, when did you begin DJing? How did you get into it? How did you learn? Were there any particular DJs that inspired you to become a DJ?
I started DJing out and about, sort of like early 2000s. I mean, like I said, prior to that, I was like collecting music, so collecting vinyl, collecting CDs and whatnot. Started on like a really rubbish set of belt drive decks. Got like one of these awful like DJ in a box setups. I think it's like some new mark thing for a couple of £100. Okay. Just kind of spent every waking moment like practicing, buying records, and that when I was able to go off to like uni, really kind of cut my teeth playing in Bristol. Like a lot of the back rooms at like all these drum and bass nights, they'd have like a hip-hop room. So I started off kind of playing drum and bass as well when I first got decks, but quickly realised very early on that in order to succeed you had to be like a producer, like a lot of dance music genres at the time. The only difference being is that there's no like laptops and plugins. It was all like outboard gear and samplers and virus synths and whatnot. So unless you've got access to a studio or like 20 to 50,000 pounds in there, to kind of build one at home, I realised that I'm not going to be making D&B anytime soon. So let me just kind of focus on my other love, which is hip hop music and scratching and turntablism, and really just kind of ran with that just through kind of listening to hip hop and being out and around and going to various club nights and that, kind of learning, and understanding like how a lot of DJs would like program these nights, so you have like R&B sets and hip hop sets and the little dancehall sections, basically just kind of, cutting my teeth, playing like all these back rooms for like 5 hours for not a lot of money, doing like, student events and stuff. And when I moved back to Essex after graduating, sort of took what I learned and just tried to run up in as many spots as possible and, build a rep. And at the time I was doing a lot of DJ competitions like ITF, DMC, and trying to sort of get my name out there as battling and, winning titles and stuff. Just to kind of help use as leverage really to play out. Because again, at that time, sort of mid 2000s, like if you won a DMC competition, you got like some kind of recognition, some kind of clout. You were able to kind of use that as a way to be like, yeah, I'm a DMC champion. And they'll be like, all right, cool, we'll book you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, similar to Red Bull 3-star winners right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Red Bull's really kind of overtaken DMC in that respect. Not to take anything away from DMC because it's still like such a foundation of hip hop and hip hop DJing. But yeah, Red Bull's really kind of overtaken it, and I think kind of surpassed it in a way where DMC is solely focused on the technical aspect of DJing. It never really kind of showcases the party side. There was that in the 80s and 90s in these competitions, like people were marked on selection and, you know, kind of like holding the vibe and stuff. Because it is, you know, the disco mixing club. That's what DMC stands for. So the DMC Championships, it was like initially only the club DJs. And then when like DJ Cheese and Chad Jackson came in the 80s, started like cutting and scratching, bringing that element of hip hop into it. It obviously shifted focus over the years. And, you know, it got to a point where it was literally just head down, scratch for 6 minutes, like do the most technical thing you can do. Which, if you're like a hardcore turntablist or like a hardcore lover of scratching, that's your thing, you're gonna love it. But for the average person that wants to just go and check out some DJs, not really gonna really understand it, which is why I think Red Bull's really kind of nailed it, because the sets are 15 minutes, it's not too long, it's I think twice as long as what a DMC set is, and it ticks all the boxes of the kind of turntable side of things. So you're going to hear like scratching, wordplay, tone play, juggling, like turntablist tricks. There's also an element on, you know, the selection and, you know, being able to like rock a crowd by playing the right records for like 15 minutes. So basically, you know, initial point, yeah, winning a DMC competition is like kind of winning the Red Bull freestyle these days. You know what I mean?
Got it. So you start out on your Newmark setup. At which point in your journey do you become a professional DJ? And when does it become a full-time job for you? Which I'm assuming it is.
Yeah, I started playing out maybe like within a year or two. I was quite fortunate. There was like some kind of youth clubs nearby, and there was like putting on under 18 nights. So at that time when I was at sixth form, you know, I can just about mix. I've got like a bag of records. I was able to like go and do like these under 18 nights, get paid like 20, 30 quid and whatnot, invest it straight back into like buying records and stuff the next day. I guess maybe like a couple of years after having, you know, these crappy belt drive decks, I, you know, leveled up, got some Technics and a Vestax mixer. Yeah, when I went to uni, that was when, you know, I really kind of, like I said, cut my teeth like playing 5 hour gigs, because like before that I was like doing half hour here, half hour there, maybe like an hour at the most.
Was that because you were doing routines? Is that why it was short?
No, it was all still in a club environment, but there's like more DJs on the lineup. So if you're done the 18s night, there might have been 4 of us on the lineup. The night's 4 hours long, so everyone got like an allocated hour set. Be like a warm up, warm down, a couple of like peak time sets and stuff. There were some nights like that at uni, but because all the focus is on the main room at like these drum and bass nights, like, you know, drive by and club level, like Ronnie Sizer's old club, the basement was like the hip hop room. Whilst all the focus is on upstairs of like all the, you know, headline DJs and whatnot, they only really need like 1 or 2 DJs downstairs just to kind of hold down, because effectively it's just like a chill out room. You know what I mean? Because everyone's kind of like our rave, getting twisted, whatnot. Yeah, they just wanted somewhere just to come and chill for like 5 minutes and listen to like, you know, Tribe Called Quest or, you know, all the 90s stuff, which a lot of DJs were playing in Bristol at the time. That's kind of where I learned very quickly how to like program a whole night, really. You know, learning not to like play all the biggest tunes at like 9:30 when the club's just open. I mean, which I think a lot of DJs kind of don't really understand these days. In certain genres, it works playing bangers straight away. You know, there's no concept of warm up in drum and bass, let alone probably like a house music event either, where you've got multiple headliners. Everyone's going to, you know, play the tunes they're into and then smash it out, you know, over the course of like an hour or 2 hours. But with hip hop and R&B nights, you really have to program it. You know, that's just the way it is nowadays. When you go into a club, or pre-COVID, when you go into a club, get in there at like 10:30, you hear like someone playing like the latest, like a Fecky joint or whatever's popping at the moment.
Jay Huss.
Yeah, like going there and like hearing like Jay Huss and Boy Pagan at like 10:30 at night. You're like, why are you playing this?
Unless they think the crowd is going to have changed a bit later on, a new crowd is coming in, sort of thing, and they're going to play it again.
I'm not really down with like the whole like playing a track like twice in one night, especially if I'm programming like the whole night. There's like different DJs on the lineup, and say I get to my set 5 minutes before for whatever reason. If I'm like doing multiple gigs in a night, I'll get to my set 5 minutes before. I have a chance to like check out what the other DJs played on the Sorority history, but a lot of the time it's just go bang straight away and DJ. So there'll be times when certain tunes will kind of cross over, but if I'm programming the whole night, like I don't want to play the same track twice. So I think it kind of shows that your selection is a little bit limited. You should be able to do a whole like 5 hour set and not have to kind of like repeat anything, unless the tune's like that big that you have to run it again. Do you know what I mean? Like when Paris came out, you know, what, back in 2010, 2011, you know, that was a tune that was getting spun 4 or 5 times a night. But yeah, I don't know. I just think maybe like a lot of younger DJs, they're excited. They've got the booking, so obviously they want to kind of impress and put highlights on social media. I get that, but it's more of a benefit to kind of play your position. So if you're booked to do a warm-up, just do a warm-up set. Don't tread on anyone's toes, like be respectful of the headliner. There are some times where you might have to kind of go in a little bit before the headliner goes on, and that's understandable in some cases, but you'll get respected more by the promoter and the headliner for playing your position and subsequently booked again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly. It's sort of play what's appropriate to the crowd. In the same way, if you went to like a restaurant for like a Sunday brunch and you had background music, even though I've got drum and bass, I'd be like, this is not the right setting for you, even though you like it. And similarly, what you're saying is if the night is kind of like a journey, don't start at the end, bring people up from the beginning.
Yeah, again, I think a lot of people forget that, club opens at 10, for example. People are just coming in, putting their coats away, checking the room out. If there's like a secondary room before they're coming to the main room, they're probably going to walk in and walk straight back out, go to the smoking section, get a couple of drinks and that. So that room is not going to fill up realistically until gone 11, 11:30, depending on, obviously like how busy the night is. So like for the first hour and a half, you're just holding the vibe really. People are going to come in and eventually like check it out, stay there and see the more people congregate, then take it up a notch. But don't go and like smash it out like from the beginning. It's just counterproductive, basically.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So we've sort of touched on it there, but what makes a good DJ to you? What are the elements of DJing that you feel are necessary to be a good DJ?
Yeah,
So one of those, I guess, is play what's appropriate to the venue or the crowd.
yeah, I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't want someone to kind of compromise what they're about. If you're like a diehard hip hop DJ and you book to play a hip hop set, then, if someone's booked to kind of make you do you, then do that. Obviously, there are times where you have to adapt. And if you're booked to play like a hip hop set and you turn up and it's a million hen parties in there wanting to hear like Rihanna, then yeah, you're going to have to adapt a little bit and, kind of keep them happy, but try and do it in a way that's not really gonna damage your integrity. Selection's always kind of key. I think, knowing what to play, how to play it, knowing the right time of the night to play certain tunes. That's something that no real DJ course can teach you, or any kind of software program. That's just, simply trial and error. Maybe going out and listen to other DJs, listen to like some of your idols or whatever, see how they do it, and then obviously incorporate that. And then, the technical side of it, beat matching, I guess. I mean, there's programs out there that can do it for you. I'm not mad at that, but understanding bars and phrases and timing and that, you can press the sync button and you get like a flawless mix. But if you're dropping the wrong song at the wrong part and track's got like a 4-bar intro before it goes in, drop it like it's hot, and you drop that in 1 bar too late, it's going to sound sloppy as hell. You know what I mean? So understanding timing and phrasing, like music theory like that. Yeah, I guess for me, coming from a hip hop background, having that kind of technical aspect, no one's got to like do boomerang scratches constantly for like 2 hours, but
Crab scratch.
yeah, or being able to kind of like have a little bit of sauce with your skill set. You know what I mean? I kind of like that. And I think being able to kind of do something cool that's technical always catches my attention and catches other people's attention. Your average person on the dance floor might not get it, but if you're able to kind of package it in a way where they do get it and understand it, similar to like how they do it in Red Bull Freestyle, yeah, wicked. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. That's kind of your opinion on what makes a good DJ. What do you think the marketplace values for DJs?
The marketplace value for DJs.
So what do you think the marketplace does value for DJs? So promoters or event bookers, do they value skills like scratching, or do they value song selection more? For DJs who want to be successful, obviously you want to have the skills, but what I'm trying to get at is what is going to make them more popular with people who can give them gigs, essentially.
Well, like numbers play an important game these days. There's a lot of people that get booked because of how many followers they have, how many SoundCloud plays or Mixcloud plays they have. I think, we're in an age where numbers really rule everything. And especially when it comes to like brand gigs as well. Any inquiry I get or some of my peers get for brand gigs, first question they ask is, what are your numbers like? What's your engagement like on social media,
So what numbers specifically are they asking about?
Follower accounts, engagement, likes, comments on posts, that type of thing. Like some festival bookers will look at how many streams you've got if you're a producer DJ or if you're like a DJ/artist. There are some promoters that are dedicated to finding good talent, like raw talent, and put them on. I commend that a lot. There's a load of great DJs out there. There's a load of great producer DJs who don't have 10,000 plus followers or a million streams on Spotify, but can do an amazing job and deserve to be out there showcasing what they can do. Obviously, we're in an age where, like I said, numbers dictate everything. How we get around that, how that changes, I don't know. That's something that might change in the next year or two with what's going on at the moment. I feel that the reset button has been pressed on the music industry at the moment. So off the back of this, I'm seeing a lot of DJs who are in this for the recognition or for clout or whatever, no longer DJing. They decide to give that up. It's almost like a cult, really. You're going to have people that adapt. So, streaming's become a big thing. I know people that are making really good money on Twitch at the moment, DJing.
So do I. Really good. Thousands.
And they're building followers, and they're building, you know, loyal core fan bases that when clubs do open up, promoters may look at that, or they can just turn around and be like, you know what, I've got this audience, I can either stay at home and continue to make money and not even have to go to a club, or I can start putting my own events on, or I can start putting my own pay-per-view concerts on. You know what I mean? It's an exciting time. It's also quite nerve-wracking as well, because I don't know what we're going to come back to, whether clubs are going to open decided 2021 whether we're going to wait, you know, until the summer. But all I know is that people are adapting and people kind of finding like revenue streams, the way that they can, you know, still DJ, I guess, and, you know, kind of make money off of it virtually. And I think it's also made people like not sort of be a slave to kind of like the crowd in front of you, you know.
Yeah.
When I do Twitch streams, like I'm playing anything I want.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because it's like if you've tuned in for me, then you've tuned in for a reason, and if you don't like it, you can just log out of the live stream.
Yeah, there's a million one channels, and now like it's cool. I think people are able to kind of showcase their personality more, showcase their taste, and also you're able to kind of put people on your music and break music, because I feel that was kind of lost for a bit. Like DJs used to be tastemakers and be able to break new tunes, and we used to get promos weeks, months in advance, and then, you know, you'd have like a 4 to 8 week campaign before the tune comes out. You're playing that in the clubs and getting people familiar with it. Whereas now, you know, the tunes are on Spotify before we even get sent a copy by the label. We're able to kind of find stuff that goes under the radar, like Bandcamp releases or like independent release, put them into our Twitch streams, mixtapes, radio shows, whatever. We're now able to kind of start putting people on and actually become tastemakers again. So one kind of positive from this whole situation is that I think DJs are probably going to be able to like find their identity a little bit more, as opposed to turning up and thinking, cool, right, I've got this crowd in front of me, all right, I'm going to have to like keep it a little bit commercial, do you know what I mean, and kind of compromise or thereabout.
Yeah, definitely. I think DJs are still tastemakers. I always think something that's good to like separate me from other people, for anyone, is I spend a lot of time going through SoundCloud or Bandcamp and looking for remixes, usually always unofficial bootlegs of songs that I know are not going to be in a CD pool or record pool, unlikely to be on the radio. And I spend really like ages looking through to get these songs, because I know that they have the biggest impact. Those are the ones that someone comes up to you with their phone and they couldn't find it on Shazam, and they're like, what is this song? Or it's the one that if you put a video out on Instagram, you know, people DM me and they're like, oh, what is this song? What is that song? I think that's massively important to do that. And that's basically what keeps people coming back for more. And then what I'll do is I'll go through the people that I like and see what songs they've liked on their own SoundCloud, because we have a similar taste essentially. That helps me to discover more. Sometimes I find remixes that are like 10 years old. That song Hackney Parrot by Tesla, the first time I heard that was last year, but I wasn't going out when it came out. So I think it came out 10 years ago, and I was like, that's 10 years old. But it's such a good song. No one was going, oh, that's an old song, because to them, essentially, it was new.
Yeah, like I think regardless of whether it's like drum and bass or bass music or house and that, you're able to play and get away with like older tracks and bringing them back, and, you know, people like appreciate it, I think, a lot more. I think with say like hip hop music, you know, it's the most like dominant form of pop music now in the world, and with that obviously comes that kind of disposable throwaway culture that we have with things nowadays. So it's quite frustrating sometimes, because, you know, like you'll discover a tune and then, you know, all of a sudden you're like, all right, dope, you play it for a few weeks and then all of a sudden people are bored of it, like, all right, cool, what's next? It's really frustrating sometimes, but like you said, with kind of like searching for older things, so I've been digging for like older bits and pieces. I've been like, you know, in a like 80s boogie rabbit hole for the last like couple of weeks, just like finding some super obscure. Been playing loads of like daytime gigs, and it's been going down pretty well. Even like I went on like a Afro House hunt the other week and was just kind of going back to like 2013, 2012, just like finding, you know, bits and pieces that I like the sound of. And I think a lot of old school stuff has really been kind of going down really, really well during this period. I think, you know, people love nostalgia. Yeah, basically, you know, they love nostalgia, and they love, I don't know whether it's just kind of like reminding of a better time, with what's going on in the world at the moment. I don't know. I find that, you know, I've been doing a lot for a lot of old bits and pieces, and, you know, some of the old school shows I've been doing on Twitch, like, you know, 90s and 2000s, and even like the producer specials as well. Just playing like obscure like Madlib productions that you didn't even know were like Madlib beats. Like people have been like reacting really well to it. I think I forgot what the original point was, but I think I answered your question.
That's okay. When you were saying that some of the places that want to book you, they're asking you how many followers you've got. Is that because they're gonna then turn around to you and say they want you to sell tickets? Is that why they want to know how many followers you are? Because it's going to be also your duty to bring people, or is it they just want to know?
Well, it's like a bums on seats mentality. So
But will they ask you to sell?
no, no, no. I know like ticket selling bookings goes on with like some house music events and that, but I've never experienced that in my career so far. Yeah, it's really just like a bums on seats mentality, basically. I think, they think, oh, this person has X thousand followers. All of them are going to come to the party. Doesn't really work like that. You can have 10,000 followers and 8,000 of those could be bots, or 5,000 of those could be just casual followers who just follow you but don't actually interact, or, aren't fans. They just click the follow button. I think people kind of underestimate that. But on the flip side, there's people like Complexion who have got between 10 and 12,000. And I know that majority of those are like rabid supporters, and he's able to sell out like merchandise in 8 minutes on Twitch or something. So
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. He's doing really, really well at the moment. And yes, I mean, with the whole numbers thing, I think some people are lazy. They think, oh, this person's clearly popular, let's book him because he'll bring a crowd. Doesn't always work like that. So that's kind of like my main gripe. I think, numbers have really kind of overtaken, like placed, like, I guess, like, value on things. And they say numbers don't lie, but it's just very easy to like manipulate those numbers or to, use it to your advantage.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but I also think it's kind of has affected everything because even in, say, sports, like a basketball team, a player might be offered more money to come to their team because they know that that player will sell lots of jerseys with their name on the back. So they're not just there to score goals, but they know that once they get them on the team, they're going to sell out all of the jerseys that have that guy's name on the back.
Yeah, I think that's always been the case though. Like you've always had like sports players who are, when you look at them, you see them play, they're clearly more marketable than other people on the team and stuff. And especially if they're good at what they do, then that's a bonus. But yeah, I think I mean obviously it does work like that. But I think with music, just because something's got a million plays doesn't necessarily mean it's a good track.
But that's the story of pop music forever. Like a lot of pop stars and singers. I mean, Britney Spears is not exactly known to have a voice like Adele.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that isn't always been the most important thing.
Hmm.
What would you say success as a DJ looks like? Not success, sorry, progression. So what would it be? Would it be particular skills that you're mastering? Would it be particular gigs that you get along the way?
I don't know.
What was progression for you like?
Progression for me was initially the way I kind of broke it down was, I was like just starting out, playing a few little youth club gigs here and there, under 18 nights and whatnot. And then I was going to Bristol, uni there, and all right, I'm playing in clubs in Bristol now. All right, cool. That's the next step for me. I'm actually out here. I'm starting to earn a bit of money from it, becoming like a little side hustle, because I was working at a record store as well on the weekend. So I was like, all right, cool, a bit of extra money coming in. And then moving back mid 2000s, staying in Essex, where I'm originally from, playing out locally, and then going a little bit further afield. I think the turning point where I saw it as like proper progression was I was able to kind of turn it into being like a fully self-employed business. So around 2007, 2008, I was able to be like, hey, I'm earning more money than my current day job at the moment, and I only need to work 3 nights a week. All right, cool. I'm just gonna DJ and see what happens now.
Was that because you had got a residency or something somewhere?
Yeah. So I had a residency at some club in Colchester called Root, and I was there like Thursdays and Fridays, and they had like a sister club in Southend at the time. So I was kind of doing alternate Fridays there, the occasional Saturday. After about a year of doing that, I then moved to Luminar, which is obviously now Deltic Group, and I was doing like the local Deltic club there for a bit. And in that particular year, I'd won like a bunch of other DJ competitions, like the Alizé remixed one, DMCs, and that kind of put me further afield. So at that point, then I was like, all right, cool. I guess I'm in this for the long game now. I'm not just kind of doing it and seeing what happens after a couple of years. Like I can see this becoming like a career. And then I think once you kind of break out of your own thing and you start playing gigs in London and that, the next kind of logical step is, trying to do overseas booking. So when my first overseas booking came in, that was like the next kind of progression for me. And then eventually it just kind of led to sort of wanting to make my own music. And that was something I was experimenting like on and off with for a few years. And then last 7 or 8 years, I guess I started putting stuff out. Yeah. So for me, it's then doing that. And then now at this point in my career, the next step for me would be to kind of secure like more placements and better placements. So, getting beats on rappers projects, or cutting tracks with, collabs with like other producers or other artists putting out there. So
Headlining Twitch.
learning Twitch, bruv, like I'll tell you what, like if I could make partner on Twitch, some of these video game streamers are getting like, some of these are securing like 6 figures a month, bro. Like if I was ever in a position where I could get that just off of DJing, mate. That'd be the dream for me, because like maybe not 6 figures a month. I think that's maybe like a little bit excessive, but enough for me to kind of do what I do and not leave my house. For me, that's the dream. I'm at a point in my life where before all of this happens, I was, busy. I was out there, I was doing like 3-4 gigs a night, Friday and Saturday, a few midweek bits here and there, daytime stuff on top of that. And I was super busy and I loved it. And I was, I'm eternally grateful for it. But it was having such a negative impact on like just my well-being and sleeping patterns, eating patterns, and a lot of these things that I guess like people kind of take for granted. When they look at DJing and they see what we do, they just see the end product, which is us DJing in the club, having a good time, playing tracks. They think, oh, that's wicked, but they don't see like the late night motorway service station stops and trying to not fall asleep at the wheel on the motorway because you've been up like for bloody 18-19 hours straight, doing X amount of gigs, and this is just on a domestic level. So when you look at like all the other DJs, the international ones who are in Vegas one night, then in Brazil the next night, then they're off to like do a European date, then they're off to do like an Asian tour like a week later. That's like some next level like sleep deprivation, and that's going to have such a negative impact on your mental well-being and obviously like your physical health as well. So
affects your relationships as well.
Yeah, like the amount of weddings I've missed over the last 10 years, I can't even count. I've either been in another country or it's been something that I haven't, I couldn't turn down. Do you know what I mean? So the last kind of year, I really made the effort to reconnect like with friends and to, I guess, sort of dedicate more time to the family life as well. And I'm kind of glad in a way that this thing happens. Financially, it's obviously, hit me, but at the same time, I've been able to de-stress and get back into like a normal eating and sleeping routine. Like it's mad. We've got like a couple of DJ WhatsApp groups, and after the first 2 weeks, like a lot of us were like up at like 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I don't remember the last time that ever happened, but for me, that would have been, probably before like I even went to university. Do you know what I mean? So like a good 15 years ago. So being able to kind of like be up at 8 and actually get like 8 hours sleep, it's really kind of helped. So yeah, but going back to the whole kind of rest and stuff, yeah, for me, if I can do more like daytime stuff or stuff that doesn't require me leaving the house, it's great. Do like a little bit of consultancy on the side, like for labels and artists, kind of help with like marketing campaigns, do like radio edits for labels as well. So that's kind of like one of the other things I've really started to push over the last 6 months, is just kind of offering like creative and label services. And if it gets to the point where that starts bringing me more money in DJing, then I'll probably settle into that, and that'll be the next step in my career. I'll always still DJ and I'll always still make music, but there does come a point in your life where your priorities change and your focus will change on how you see things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. What sacrifices would you say you've had to make to progress as a DJ?
Relationships, definitely. Probably financial stability to begin with. I was quite fortunate that in my early 20s I was still able to be at home, still like paying my way, but I didn't have like the full responsibility of like a mortgage or like full rent and that. So I did have a little bit of a safety net, but I was still obviously paying bills and not earning what I would like to have been earning at that particular point. So yeah, financial stability. I guess also, yeah, like I said, just with friends, just like missing birthdays and weddings and other things like that. Like my mates want to go out on a Saturday night, I can't go out on a Saturday night, I've got to drive to Birmingham and DJ. My friends getting married, or my mates want to go on holiday, I can't go on holiday because I've got these bookings overseas. And that's like the self-employed life. If you take time off, it's unpaid holiday and you're going to lose out. It's not the same as like taking unpaid leave in a 9 to 5. I'm actively losing out on work, so I'm double down what that person would be. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think those are things I have to sacrifice. And again, like I said, it just got to a point where I feel like I was starting to like sacrifice health as well. It just wasn't fun for a while. Waking up with like 0 sleep and going and doing 3 gigs.
Do you drink?
Well, socially, yeah, but I drive to most of my gigs, so I can't drink. If I drank and drove, that'd be one, highly irresponsible, and two, if I ever got stopped and was over the limit, how am I going to get to my gigs? Yeah, I could get the trains and stuff, but I don't want to be hanging around Liverpool Street Station at 5:30 in the morning and all the other stuff that goes with a drink drive conviction. Insurance going up, and yeah, no, it's just not worth it at all.
I think that's something that massively takes a toll on DJs, and obviously you don't have to drink, but it's such a big sort of part of it. Strange that in entertainment jobs you can just drink while while you work, and I don't think it's performance enhancing at all. I have seen a lot of DJs and know a lot that during this period have said this is the first time that they haven't been out drinking for like 6 months because they haven't basically been working in an environment where they were. I think I saw Hannah once put a tweet out yesterday saying it's like the first 6 month period she's had where she hasn't been drinking.
Yeah. It kind of changes if you're like a level where you're being flown in and out. I mean, like overseas gigs, I don't know if some people might disagree with this, but there's kind of like this unwritten rule where promoter will get you smashed. Like you're in a new country, you're partying, like get drunk, you're not driving, you know, it's cool. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of like one of these jobs where drinking on the job is acceptable. Like getting drunk at your job is acceptable. Like it's mad to think that. But I've seen people who've DJ'd when they've been absolutely smashed and killed it in a great way, and I've seen people who've been smashed and absolutely bombed, man. You know, I guess it's all really down to how you handle your alcohol. But yeah, I mean, I've DJ drunk before. I've had some great sets, some great nights, and you know, I've DJed when I've been drunk, and sets been like a little bit sloppy. But I learned very early on. I was like, look, I just want to try and stay as professional as possible. If there's an instance where I can do some drinking at fun and you know the most cool with it, I'll do that. But I always just want to do like the best possible set just to get repeat business. Basically, if you are drinking whilst you're DJing, then you know knowing your limits is obviously very important, and also don't drink and drive. Basically, don't ever do it. So
Yeah, obviously doing a good job is the most important thing. I did once see a DJ, he was so drunk, he got taken off the decks and they had to put a mixed CD in.
wow,
You were talking about repeat business. I don't think I don't think he probably
no,
ever got.
definitely not.
Literally can't stand up.
Yeah, that's not good, man.
Have you ever had to start over again on your DJ music journey?
What like kind of rebrand and reinvent myself?
Have you had any periods of, I got to start over again, either because, I don't know, maybe you had a residency somewhere and it got taken away, or you were on a record label and you got dropped, or maybe you had to make a big choice of do I continue, do I stop? Because there's going to be lots of DJs who do go through that. 1 minute you're really big and popping, then you might become sort of irrelevant, or maybe you think you're getting really good gigs and then they dry up. Just a point where you've had to sort of like start over again or maybe change direction. I'm just kind of interested what happened and like what you would have learned in that kind of period.
Yeah, I've lost residencies. I lost my residency at Root, like the culture club I was talking about. You know, I just wasn't getting on with the promoter for whatever reason. You know, he was just promoters being promoters. And I just didn't really get on with that one in particular. And yeah, they were just like, yeah, it's not working. And then literally lost 2 nights a week like that. And then had a couple of weeks of like, what am I going to do? All right, cool. Am I going to have to like go back and get 9 to 5? And then other opening happened at like another club and stuff, you know. And I was able to kind of still continue doing what I do. But residencies come and go. You know, you're always going to have club nights that don't want to, or clients that aren't going to book you again for whatever reason. You know, whether the club changes management and they want to take things in a new direction, or whether the club shuts down and becomes a gym, for example. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, these are always things that are going to happen. What I learned after a few years was rather than rely on weekly gigs, say you got like a weekly Thursday and it's like 50% of your income, that Thursday gets cut or they decide to not work with you anymore, you're down 50%. So I was like, well, rather than do one weekly gig, why don't I just do 4 monthly gigs? So every Thursday I've got like a different monthly gig, or every Friday, Saturday I've got a different monthly gig. And that way, if one did fall through, then I've still got 3 to fall back on. I've only got one date in my diary to fill.
So you've gone from 3 a week to 4 a month. I'm assuming that you've had to put your pay up quite high because otherwise you are just decreasing your income yourself, aren't you?
Yes and no. I mean, you know, with my scene, I feel there is like a bit of a price cap with like a lot of hip hop and R&B events. You know, like with house music, again, I feel that in that circle, people can probably earn a bit more. You know, I do have some great, like really well paid bookings, and have had, you know, like really well paid like monthly residencies and stuff. You ask any kind of like working DJ on a circuit who plays like similar events to me, there's kind of like a price cap, and I think, you know, it's very hard to kind of progress unless you're either doing your own event or you're able to kind of, you know, strike like an exclusivity deal. That being said, a lot of them pay similar booking fee. For me, they paid a similar booking fee. So I was able to be like, all right, cool. Rather than just do one of them, I'll just do 4 similar ones, which are bringing in a similar amount of money. So therefore, it's not really affecting my income that much.
I was confused about that. What you're saying is instead of doing 3 for the same person or the same venue, where if they go, that's all 3 gone. You're saying spread it out amongst different promoters. So if one promoter goes,
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I was going to say otherwise.
you're reducing your own income going from 3 a week to 1 a week. Okay, no, I understand what you're saying.
yeah, definitely. So basically, kind of switching to monthly. So that way, for me, it was good because, again, off the back of those monthly parties, they start doing other brands and other events. So because I'm already in that circle, I'm able to kind of be busier. You know, that monthly party is now doing a party in the summer months, and they locked in 3 or 4 dates for me. So I've now got extra business off of that. If I was just kind of still doing the same Friday night spot, I wouldn't have had any of these opportunities. So I think weeklies are good when you're starting out, and weeklies are good if you want that added security. Like, you know, you turn up, you do your 10 till 2, 10 till 3 set, whatever, how long it is, and you know you're guaranteed X amount a week. Great. But do explore prospects of working with multiple promoters, and you'll work with some, it might not work out for you, and you work with some, and these might be people that you're working with, you know, 8-10 years down the line. Like Faded, for example, you know, I've been there since 2012, and we still maintain like a really good working relationship. And then in terms of like reinventing myself and starting over, yeah, I think as music trends change, you know, my taste in music has always evolved or kind of zigzagged every now and then. So now I'm kind of playing more of what I personally like. So when I was kind of doing more stuff with the BBC, I was kind of solely focusing on hip hop and grime music. I still play those genres, but because of the day parties and getting older and my taste developing, I'm playing other genres alongside. So, you know, I didn't really kind of pay too much attention to like Afro House over the last, like, you know, 3-4 years. But now I'm incorporating that into my sets, or even Afro beats, for example. Like 5-6 years ago, I knew a couple of joints, but now my taste has developed. I'm playing more of that. Some of the tunes are pop in and cross over, so you have to play them, but also I'm kind of doing what I do, and that's like dig for music and finding, you know, new stuff that I personally like and want to, you know, push on to people. Everyone's taste in music is going to develop as you get older. You know, you might start off being a house DJ, but then you might be a deep house DJ, but then you might go tech or minimal tech, and then you might go techno, and then you might be like, you know what, let me come back into Afro house, or you might go soulful or something. Do you know what I mean? Your journey's going to differ with that. And you see like a lot of house producers who've been in the game for a number of years who produce different styles within that house umbrella. Do you know what I mean? Radio as well. Like, I mean, I was doing the BBC like for 2.5 years for the 60 Minutes thing for Mr. Jam. Initially, that was like a 6-month contract, turned into 2.5 years, which I'm grateful for. And when that stopped, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was still supplying mixes on a semi-regular basis, like once every couple of months and that. But after that kind of finished doing like bi-weekly stuff for them, then kind of like, all right, cool. You know, I'm not really doing as much stuff for one extra. Let me kind of for other avenues. And I guess, you know, off of that, started kind of doing more bits of rinse. And I'm doing something with a new radio station now called Plus One Radio that a girl called Taylor Elaine has set up. And, you know, these kind of platforms, I'm able to really play the stuff that I want to play whilst I have free reign on BBC.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So they weren't like this playlist. Is that because it was the 60-minute takeover?
Yeah. So the 60 Minutes thing essentially was like a radio show and a radio show. Basically just like an hour segment where you'd mix. You'd have to keep it obviously radio friendly. You obviously had to comply. So certain tracks, certain artists you couldn't play on radio, like Vibes Cartel, for example.
Why couldn't you play Vibes Cartel?
Man's on a murder charge, bro. So
Oh,
yeah. So if like
okay.
if an artist is locked up, whether it's like weapons charges or a murder charge or anything else that's, you know, that serious, you know, you can't play. Just because, you know, I think BBC's got to be impartial and, you know, it can't really be seen to be promoting.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Can be a bit tricky because when you just go crate digging, it's like, what do I need to go and research every person now? Because I've got a bunch of music that I actually don't know who they are. It's just a name on my USB that I knew I liked.
If you're playing like electronic music, you're safe, well, within reason, unless, you know, they get cancelled for whatever reason. But did kind of make it tricky sometimes because there were certain tunes that you really wanted to play. You'd submit your mix and it'd be like, yeah, you can't play this tune, fair enough. But I did have free reign, which is great.
Tell me how that BBC thing came about, and then also if you're happy to talk about how it came undone or how it stopped.
I just emailed him, basically. Like, I literally just emailed Mr. Jam. He was still like doing the speaker box thing, which I was a resident for.
So did you know him?
Yeah. I know like Jam pretty well. Like, we're cool. So like prior to the 60-minute thing happening, he like booked me for a couple of his speaker box events and stuff. You know, I was like kind of one of the residents for the club nights. And then I was just like bored one day, and I was just like, yeah, they do the 60-minute thing. I'd like to do that. I just emailed Pete. I was like, yo, bro, here's some music for you to check out. I really like the 60 minutes thing. If you ever want to switch the lineup, shout me. I wouldn't mind doing it. And then 2 days later, I got an email from the producer going, hey, we're changing the lineup. Would you like to do it? And I was like,
No way.
yo, perfect timing. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And
Wow.
And was it paid?
yeah, it was paid. is paid as well. So one of the few radio gigs where they pay you for a mix, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. All right. And at that time, grime was having a resurgence in the mainstream. So I was still kind of playing stuff prior to that, but then all of a sudden I had this platform, and rather than kind of like do the mix, because initially they broke it down to me, it's like, all right, cool, we're going to change Resonance every 6 months. So I've got 6 months, I'm going to be doing twice a month. So I've got like 12 mixes to really kind of like prove myself on national radio. So the first mix of the month, I would do like hip hop based music, kind of like some grime tunes that were current popping and throwing like a few throwbacks here and there. And then the second mix of the month was like solely grime, but the last half an hour I would play instrumentals and then get an MC to host it and spit bars. And this was like when Novelist first started coming through. Got Big Nasty on there, had the one with P Money, had Stay Fresh on there as well, Manga and Izzy Gibbs at one point, Tizzy Gang. I mean, I wasn't even going to the BBC studios, I was literally hiring the studio and getting the artists to come through. So I was like paying for studio time, taking that BBC money and investing it in like 3-hour studio session and being like, all right, cool, I'm going to make the mix and then I'm just going to play it. Almost like the kind of Street Beats CD that Ministry put out, where it was literally just a studio mix. Slimsy done one, and God's Gift was literally just like spraying from start to finish, you know, like over an hour. So I was like, all right, cool, we're going to do that. And I guess they must have liked it enough to kind of keep me there. Because I had like a meeting with GCSE, and they're like, yeah, cool, we're just going to roll with the same lineup, you know, seems to be doing pretty well. When they said, oh, by the way, you do realise you can come and like use the BBC studios, I was like, oh, sick, okay, cool. So then instantly I'm able to kind of reach out to all these other artists, because I start trying to do and be like, oh, do you want to jump on? And sometimes be like, oh, I can't really get to the studio. But then you say, hey, we're going to record it like, you know, one extra. They're like, all right, cool, yeah, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely helped open up a lot of doors. I was able to kind of catch artists on their come up. So, you know, I was able to do one with like Section Boys, or Smoke Boys as they're called now, you know, Big Tobes, a lot of other, you know, like grime MCs. Like I did one with like AJ Tracy, Big Zoo, YGG, Ghostly was there as well. That's like one of the best sets I ever did on the station. Yeah, like off of that, I was able to kind of then try and say to them, hey, you've got camera set up, should we try and film some of these? And I think one or two of them made it onto the YouTube. Then I was like, well, if you've got mics, why don't I just start coming in and recording links? And then really treating it like a radio show, because no one else is really doing that within 60 minutes. So I was like, let me just take the initiative and just kind of show that I can actually like talk, as opposed to, you know, submit a mix. Here's your MP3, see you in 2 weeks. Did that, and then off the back of that, I was able to kind of host, like, you know, fill in for Target a couple of times on a Friday night, which was dope. It just kind of ended really. Basically, long story short, Mac went on maternity leave. Mr. Jam went to cover Annie Mac's show, which is the same time as his one extra show. And then they brought Target in, and they just decided to change the whole format. They've been running with 60 Minutes for 2.5 years. Prior to that, it was called the Daily Dose. So they had this same section for like the best part of 4 or 5 years. And at that point, you know, 4 or 5 years is a lifetime in radio. So you have to kind of change things. So that's when they're like, yeah, we're going to be, you know, like taking different directions. I was like, okay, but I'm a free agent. Let's try and work some other stations. And
yeah, how was that period after that for you? Because I can imagine you were probably like, you know, everything's going well. Now I can make connections with all these people because I've got the sort of BBC backing behind me. Did you want to maybe get your own show out of it like Target has, or Mr. Jam? Or was there opportunity for that?
that was the plan, but I kind of knew deep down like they'd already got their roster. I don't think that there would have been much scope for me to kind of move in. I'm someone who plays hip hop and grime. You've got Logan on there who's at that point was doing his thing and then doing the radio on Residency. Semtex is like a legend in the UK, and at that point he wasn't going anywhere. So there wasn't room for me to really kind of come in and do my thing. I had conversations with the producer about, you know, why don't we make it a live broadcast? You know, you trust me enough to like not swear on air. You trust me enough to have clean tracks, and you know, if we do want to bring guests in, we can start doing freestyles and really treat it like its own kind of entity, basically. And you know, imagine the interaction that we get if it was like a live broadcast as opposed to me sitting on Twitter and interacting with people. We could really like make this like a bigger thing. That was like the preliminary conversation. Obviously things changed. It would have been dope if that happened. I don't know whether I'd be on the station now or whether they would have given me a show, but then again, we might have tried it might not have worked, and they might have, you know, canned it eventually. Do you know what I mean? So
would you say that at that point in your DJ career it would have been important for you to focus a lot more on your brand, because it sounds like that was probably what was separating you from Slimzy and Logan and Mr. Jam, that they had a bigger brand.
Logan Sama, that's what you're talking about, right?
yeah. Like,
yeah, so you got Logan Sama is obviously well known in the grime scene. DJ Target was part of Roll Deep.
Exactly. So there's no way I could ever compete in that sense. I mean, I always saw myself as a mix show DJ. I didn't see myself as like a presenter. So the times I cover Target, I'm not a seasoned broadcaster like Target. You know, I can talk a bit, but my focus is really on kind of putting you up on the tunes that I'm playing and giving you a backstory about them. And obviously, like reading out texts and shout outs and saying, hey, yeah, if you're listening, shout us, say 1199 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You know, send us a text message. Like, I'm not really a personality in that respect. So that's the way I kind of viewed it. I thought if I was to get on a station like that, it would have to be a mixed show element. So it might have had to be like a 1 till 4 a.m. like specialist show where I can then play everything from like Young Thug to West Side Gun to Manga to P Money to, you know, Flying Lotus instrumentals. Do you know what I mean? Really kind of build a show that showcases the backpack side of hip hop and grime music to the kind of club music I'm feeling, which I guess I've been able to do on other stations. Yeah, I think at that point in time, you know, they just wanted to completely overhaul. It is what it is, man. It's radio, you know. It's not always meant to happen where you think it's meant to happen. If it happens, it happens. If not, then, you know, something will happen other avenues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of view it. You know, it bums you out, but what are you going to do? You can either like sit at home and like mope about it and listen to Boys to Men and cry into your pillow, or you can just get up and get it done.
Is that when you kind of moved on to start doing more like corporate gigs, say with brands like Nike?
The Nike stuff had already been there. So like when I was doing some tour DJing, I was in contact with a few brands and stuff, you know, so I was able to kind of do a couple of brand bookings off the back of that. And then it was like 2014, like my boy Martin Too Smooth hit me up and was like, I'm DJing a night now. Do you want to come in and spin? I was like, oh yeah, let's do it. The Nike stuff was there before the BBC stuff was, off the back of doing stuff at the BBC. It definitely opened up doors to kind of do more sort of like corporate and brand stuff. Because again, you know, that BBC tag after your name does open doors, no different to Red Bull Freestyle or DMC or being signed to a record label. Like all these things generate interest from brands and, you know, it makes you stand out from other people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I had my first radio guest mix on Kiss 2 weeks ago.
What, Kiss Fresh?
Yeah, just Kiss Fresh.
Yeah.
I saw it on Twitter basically, and I'd seen it like a million times before, similar stuff like that, and I had always kind of tried to apply to it, I guess, but I was always looking at it like, oh, there's so many people going for it, and then sometimes I'd get disheartened because I'd kind of check my play count and see like no one listened to what I'd sent in and stuff. But then, yeah, this time I got on, so I had a whole hour. Literally a week later, then I was on Represent Radio, and then I'm actually doing Rude Kids Grime this Saturday. So
just by being connected to the
like the Kiss thing, like you say about BBC Radio, it's like suddenly everyone is like, oh, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah, man. That's the other thing I forgot to mention is like I wasn't just doing 60 minutes at that point because I was able to get to know the producers of the shows. And the producers of the shows always kind of, they jump in for like 6 months and they'll go off and do another show. Or you'll get like a temporary producer that'll come in and cover for a little bit. I was able to get to know the producers. And then, you know, one of them went off to work for Nick Bright show. So I started doing mixes for Nick Bright. And then one of them went off to do the breakfast show for ADOT for like a good few months. I was able to kind of do guest mix on the breakfast show. So instantly I was kind of providing different types of mixes across the station. So my name was always in people's mouths. Do you know what I mean? But you'll find that that's how it happens. Like the more mixes you do for a certain station, the more they'll just come back to you, and the more, you know, if you're versatile enough and you're spread out across the station, then it'll always be like, I need a mix in 24 hours time. All right, cool, this guy, you know.
No, that's exactly what happened to me. They came to me on Tuesday. We want you to do a 1 hour guest mix. And I was like, oh my God, they actually like contacted me. And I was like, okay, cool. When? And they were like, oh, you're on tonight, 10 p.m. or something. They actually contacted me when I was asleep because I wake up quite late. So I kind of woke up and I was like, hang on a second. What? Tonight? And I did a different radio station the week before, so I kind of felt like I'd used up all of my really cool and recent garage music. Like I used all of my weapons on that, so I was like, now I need to do house. So I spent like the whole day just going through hundreds of songs. I was like, no one talk to me, just like listening through everything, trying to select. Because, you know, if you're getting 1 hour, you want to make it really, really good the whole time. Because I was like, this is my one kind of shot. And it can be like that. And if I'd have said, you know, I can't do it tonight, then what? They would have just moved on to the next person.
You might get the opportunity again, but it might be 9 months down the line or something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, shout out Kiss, man. Like, you know, they're definitely kind of looking after DJs at the moment and kind of giving DJs a platform to really do their thing. Do you know what I mean? BBC is to an extent, they're still doing mixes for like, you know, Snoozie's show and for Nick Bright's show as well. But I really feel like Kiss has really kind of put it out there recently.
Yeah, because Kiss are actually advertising. I haven't seen BBC advertise. If I did, I would be straight on it.
Yeah, and again, normally it's like the producers reaching out to DJs, unless you like know the presenter personally, or you know the producers actively out there doing their research and seeing who's popping, you know, in the scene. And that getting these radio gigs can be quite hard. You know, they used to do segments where it'd be like, submit your mix and we'll play it if we like it, but it doesn't really happen no more. I always found, you know, just ask people. You know, like get up the DJ I like or that I know, and I'd be like, oh, let me do a mix for your show, and I'd be like, all right, cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But I always think that they probably have so many people doing that as soon as they see it, they're like, delete, just not even read it.
They're either going to say one or two things, aren't they? So if they say no, all right, you're going to say no. If they say yeah, oh, you scored yourself a mix. If you said no, what have you done? You've just wasted like a couple of minutes writing an email. No one's died. Do you know what I mean? So
I'm always worried about annoying them, though.
yeah, but again, imagine the amount of emails they get sent day in, day out, not just from DJs, but they get promos sent to them, or there's other bits and pieces. Like, it's just one extra email. It's not going to annoy them. Like, if you were DMing them every 5 minutes, give me a show and clogging up their inbox that way and really making a nuisance of yourself. But a couple of emails every now and then, like, I'm pretty sure they're going to let that slide. They're not going to be like, oh my God, this guy keeps emailing me once every 2 weeks. It's so annoying. Nah, man. So
I'm going to be sliding into an inbox near you soon.
yeah, man. Like the way I kind of see it is like just shoot your shot. A lot of people are too polite to ask, but there is a fine line, I guess, between asking, begging. Obviously, if you're gonna shoot your shot, just make sure you're respectful about it. Be like, you know, I love your show. If you do genuinely listen to them, you know, don't just be like, hey, I love your show. If you don't listen to the DJ, it's always kind of whack. But yeah, if there's like a DJ who fits your style of music, you listen to their show, then you know, just hit them up and you know, again, do the research. If you go on Twitter, go on their IG. They might be tagged in a picture with their producer. Their producer might have an email, or you might be able to find out who produces the specialist shows and email them. You know, with the BBC, there's a production company that does some of the specialist shows. You might be able to like email them direct. You know, sometimes they do the programming. It's all about doing some research and you know, seeing who's in charge of what. Just asking. You know, don't ask, don't get. It's the same with gigs as well. I've always been a firm believer in, you know, if you want to play a certain night, go there, support it. Don't go there and try and beg guests. Just go there, pay your entry. You know, if my friend's DJing, I'll go there and, you know, just get a chance to promote her. I might not even ask to play. I might just show my face. And the fact that you showed your face there and you like got a chance to promote her, might wake up the next day, oh yeah, we need to sort the next lineup. Oh yeah, who's that guy last night? Do you know what I mean? It just goes like that, kind of network and put yourself out there. Sometimes it works if you just like throw an email and be like, I love your night, I've been there a couple of times, can we do something? And they might hit you back and go, yeah, we're interested. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like definitely shoot your shot. You're not gonna like lose out on anything. You know, the worst that people are gonna say is no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw an interview of Ryan Leslie. He's a producer, and he was saying that when he was starting out, he used to go through CDs, and on the credits of the CD, he'd find out,
You know, a writer of lyrics or a writer of the song.
and that was kind of his way of connecting people. He'd go through and see like who actually was on this song and try and get hold of them. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I haven't thought of contacting producers of shows or anything like that. That's a good idea. When you say specialist show, a genre specific show, so like Kiss Grime or Kiss Drum and Bass, is that what you mean by specialist?
Yeah, like Kiss Grime. I mean, Kiss Presents, I guess, is specialist to an extent because if you're a specialist DJ, you're going to kind of do what you do. You know, if you go on like Kiss Fresh, you're not going to just play like Justin Bieber records or pop records. You know, if you're a house DJ and you've been asked to do a Kiss Fresh mix, you're going to go and play like all the freshest house music that either you've been making or that's out there right now. But yeah, with the special stuff like BBC, it would always be Toddler T or like drum and bass show with René Levice now. I think he does it.
Yeah, that's
you
it.
know, even they do like guest mixes occasionally for the rap show on a Saturday night. So, I mean, you know, if you're like a specialist DJ, like just work out who's doing the specialist shows or work out if there's like a gap in the schedule as well. There might be a gap in the schedule where they just run stuff off a playlist at like 2 to 4 in the morning. Go pitch the idea to the station manager or whoever's like head of scheduling. And like now you've got like it in with Kiss, go back to your contact and be like, thanks fancy opportunities, I'd like to do some more work. How can I do stuff on a regular basis? Could we do a mix for da, or could we do something in a couple of months? I'd say to people, like, always have like a clean mix on standby. Like Swerve said that to some people in the chat, like, make sure we've always got like a half hour to an hour's guest mix that's clean on standby, and, you know, shoot your shot. And if someone says, yeah, oh, by the way, can you do something tonight? Yeah, you can just email something over straight away. Job done. You haven't got to like run around and try and find promos like last minute and stress out trying to record something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So I saw that you're offering DJ lessons now.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through like what you focus on in them? Obviously, as someone who's selling a course now in DJing, you're in a good position to know what's important to teach DJs.
Really, it's kind of everything. I always ask people, like, if someone gets in touch and like, oh, I want to learn, I always just say to them, like, what's your current skill level? Where are you at in your DJ journey?
Will you assess them yourself?
Sometimes, if it's like Zoom or FaceTime, then I'll ask them like beforehand, you know, what exactly do you want to learn? And some are like openly honest and been like, I just bought a controller last week. So I'll be like, all right, cool. So I'm going to teach you how the software runs first and what buttons do what, and guide you through your piece of equipment before we even look at how to mix two tracks together. And then there's people that understand like the basics, like, I'm able to fade in from one song to the other. All right, cool. Well, let's see how we can make it a little bit more interesting. And let's see how we can kind of make it, you know, a little bit more exciting. And then there's people that just want to brush up on scratching. And then there's people that want to learn scratching from the beginning that have never put their hand on the pattern and gone jigga jigga before. Do you know what I mean? They've just pressed buttons. So, you know, especially the scratching, I'll just be like, all right, cool, just throw on a beat and scratch for a couple of minutes. Let me see where you're at. And then I'll just kind of dissect it and be like, all right, cool, well, let's start with like phrasing. All right, cool, you've got these patterns down, but how about we try and do this pattern this way and look at different time signatures and different speeds and kind of getting to understand like the musicality of like scratching, you know, because it's not just about putting your hand on the record and going really fast and trying to do like power cuts. It's a lot of it's like about flow and different intonations and how you move your hand on the platter at different speeds. It gives it an overall different sound. So moving the record really fast is a higher pitched sound. Moving the record really slow is a lower pitched sound. You start combining that with like fader clicks and that, you can really kind of start punctuating your scratches almost so it sounds like an instrument, you know what I mean? And then, you know, there's people that I chat to about like crate management, how to organize tracks like for a playlist, how to prep for gigs, those type of things that I think a lot of DJ courses don't teach. Like a lot of courses just kind of say, here's how you mix two tracks together. Here's like some cool fancy shit you can do with it. They don't sit down and be like, this is how we organize our music, or this is how I organize my music.
I think learning about Rekordbox was one of the most like important and helpful things to me, because when I first started, I literally just had a USB, and if you opened up the USB, it just had songs on it. There wasn't a single folder. It was just filled with songs. That has been actually one of the best things. I think I ended up learning about Rekordbox probably 6 months or a year later, and I was like, what? I can actually like organize this stuff and know what the speed is. And then another 6 months later, I learned about cue points, and I was like, well, this is useful because I'm not scrolling around the whole time trying to save them. And
it's crazy. Like I started using USBs in like 2012, 2013. Still use like turntables for certain gigs, but yeah, for like some gigs I'm just in and out in like an hour, couple of USB keys, all my cue points set up there, and I've got playlists and that. And it's been a game changer. I don't even need to like take a backpack to certain gigs. Like that's how crazy it's got now. And I love that because I don't miss parting 5 bags of records to a gig anymore. Got like a permanently sore shoulder because of that and trapped nerve. But being able to just kind of plug and go, and literally you've got 128 gigs there, and you've got like 10,000 songs on there in certain playlists and that, and you're able to access. That's amazing to me. You know, it doesn't really take anything away from what I'm doing, because how I play 20 certain records is going to be different to how you play it or someone else plays it. Yeah, Rekordbox is amazing, man. But yeah, we'll teach things like that. I'll teach things like how to like use Serato, teach people the fundamentals of putting routines together. Someone will be like, oh, I want to learn how to do like a wordplay routine, and I'll be like, all right, cool, well, let's watch someone's routine on YouTube, and then we'll kind of break it down and work out how they put it together. So I'm going to do that with someone next week. They want to know how to do like a James Hype type set. I'm like, all right, cool, well, we're going to sit there, like disassemble his routine and then piece it back together, and, you know, kind of go from there really. Hopefully once they've learned that, they can kind of incorporate their own sort of style into it, you know. It's all levels, all different kind of skill sets I get. Classes are like on Zoom or FaceTime, whatever's easiest really. I think FaceTime, so that way I can actually set the phone up like a bird's eye view, just like a hourly basis, like an hourly rate. Discounts if you block book. If you want to get good, follow your boy.
Have you created any kind of syllabus for it?
No, that's next, I think, on the list.
The reason I ask is, did you know that you can now take a GCSE and
In DJing.
Yeah,
do an exam?
yeah. I've actually reached out to the guys who were doing the syllabus, the future DJs, because they were actually looking for tutors. So I was like, all right, let's try and talk. I think it's dope. An actual GCSE itself. Here's where I'm conflicted because I think it's dope, and obviously I wouldn't mind having the work to be fair. But how is this going to work long term? Like, I don't know if clubs are really going to have a requirement where, hey, you need a GCSE
Yeah.
B grade and above to play at our venue. It doesn't really work like that. It doesn't even really work with photography. Like, no one says, hey, have you got a HND in photography studies? Like, we need someone with a degree in fine art to come and photograph our venue. It doesn't really work like that. I think maybe keeping kids engaged with something, and maybe if it's something that they enjoy and they like, and if they have a passion for music, it might lead them into like doing music production. It might lead them into doing other stuff behind the scenes. They might like DJing, but they might like the idea of like, yeah, DJing is fun. What else can I do in the industry? Oh, cool, I can go into like production, festival production, putting things together and stuff. I think there might be other springboards off the back of it. Like I said, my whole main thing is like, how would you use that qualification later in life? How would you use it to your advantage? It's like, you want to be a scientist, you're going to need a background in like chemistry or biology in your specific field. But with DJing, YouTube is your friend. Do like one-off sessions with people like myself or other people out there, and like learn and develop your own style. If it teaches like the history of DJing and also teaches, say, like with hip hop, especially the history of hip hop, then that's always a bonus. One of my gripes is you have journalists who weren't around in the 80s and 90s to really kind of understand the DJ scene, or let alone the hip hop scene. So they kind of write about what they think is gospel, and a lot of people get written out of history. So if there's a way to like incorporate, like I said, history of DJing or history of hip hop DJing into the syllabus, or even the history of hip hop music and hip hop culture, then that'd be like, I see so many articles that go up and they not reference certain artists or labels or certain events that happened in the past, or their knowledge of it is so skewed that they've got facts wrong. That narrative gets pushed onto like younger people who then grow up with not knowing their history. That's something that could be taught, as opposed to giving someone an A star for learning how to beat match two house tracks together.
So I agree with you. I think it would be weird if clubs started saying, have you got your GCSE? But what I do think is good about it though is I didn't learn about Rekordbox early on, and I didn't even find out about cue points early on. Having something like this is going to be good for actually like teaching people what they need to know, because if you're just teaching yourself and you're kind of making it up as you go, those people are going to get told, okay, this is Rekordbox, this is how you organize your music, this is how you set a cue point so you don't get to every gig and reset them every single time, where you just scroll through, press cue whilst you could be mixing or getting the next song ready. So it's going to be good for that. And then also just to kind of like bring the level of DJs up. I've got it up in front of me now. I've actually had like a look at what it is. It doesn't sound that easy to pass to me, and I kind of think like a lot of DJs, especially probably like artist DJs, I think a lot would kind of struggle to pass this. And this is only GCSE, so I don't know what A-level DJing would be like. There's 3 levels. So they have debut, which is the equivalent of a grade 1, sort of like piano. Then they have breakthrough, which is grade 3. Artist, which is grade 5. The grading is assessed on techniques such as scratching, beat juggling, looping, beat matching, track selection and style. Most DJs cannot do any of the scratch techniques.
Sorry, just to jump in, but I think that's all relevant to like the music you're into, how you DJ. Like, I mean, yeah, there are house DJs that scratch, but is it a tool that is necessary to the music you're playing? If you're playing minimal tech, you're going to beat juggle. I guess it's handy to understand it and to kind of know what goes into it, but you're not going to beat juggle the same 8-bar 4/4 drum. That's where it kind of becomes more of a, are you teaching this to create a new generation of open format DJs where, okay, cool, these skills are applicable, but for specialist DJs, that might be something they don't excel at, or they have no interest in, or they find hard because someone who's into like techno and might just want to work on creating these long, intricate 3-minute blends between songs and stuff. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
I think scratching is really cool, and it's a great element of creative DJing, but I certainly don't think it's necessary for DJing success. And sort of like how you said earlier, most of the crowd won't even know anyway. They just kind of want to hear songs they like. So you could come out and be Red Bull 3 Style champion, but if you're not playing songs that they like, they're going to say he's not a very good DJ. You could be a big award winner, but
Exactly. And I think that's kind of what was kind of getting annoying about club and culture prior to, lockdown and stuff. I think it happens more so in the open format world, whether you're playing old house records or new house records or old drum and bass and new drum and bass. Just the fact that you turn up and people are there because they like that type of music. So they're going to go there because they're music-led genres. They're not there because they're there for a night out and they want to drink and they want tunes that they know to soundtrack their night out. So with the open format world, and again with the music I play, which again is pretty much pop music, people go out there and they want to hear the songs they know, but they're just there because they want to party, and people want to Snapchat themselves singing along to the tracks they know, like Drake and whatnot, because that's what clubbing culture is now in that particular world. It did get frustrating in certain venues and certain nights where you want to play cool, or you want to kind of take a few left turns here and there, or play older stuff, but because you're not playing what that particular person wants to hear, you're in their eyes and stuff. It can get annoying sometimes, but again, music's all subjective in it. So like what I think is dope, people are going to think is whack, vice versa. That's the beauty of it. Like art is subjective, and a lot of people that go out clubbing to the stuff that I play are just casual listeners. They'll listen to what's on. They'll be in the office listening to what's on the radio, as opposed to waiting up to hear Target shows, to hear like the brand new premiere or something for particular artist. That's the only annoying thing. But yeah, like I said, it's all kind of flipped on its head now. I think people are listening to DJs and they're kind of interested in their selection now, and I think this might be the turning point when clubs do open up. We're going to follow DJs again because of what they play, because they like what that DJ plays. You'll always get venues where people are going to come and want to hear what they want to hear, and not going to like it because they can't Snapchat themselves singing to Drake Tootsie Roll. But what are you going to do? Like, every venue is going to have a Karen, bro. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it. Karen's going to be everywhere, sadly.
I'm guessing you're going to say yes to this, but do you think there's an art to DJing, and how would you explain it?
Yeah, it's definitely an art. It's just more than fading two tracks in, or more than making two tracks of the same BPM. Like I said at the start, it's all about knowing when to drop certain tracks at the right time, knowing when to like hold off playing them, waiting for that right moment, knowing when to like play tracks in quick succession, and then knowing when to kind of give it breathing space, or which tracks complement each other. Like the knowledge of like how your tunes are structured, or like house music, where you need to drop the track for both build-ups to match, and then for you to double drop and it to be a certain mix, especially in drum and bass, like knowing when to like drop a tune for it to double drop at the right point, knowing which tunes work well together if you are to double drop, or this track's got like a 3-bar intro or whatever I need to drop at this point. Basically, the art of DJing is really being able to just do stuff with finesse, really, and make it look effortless. I don't know, I just can't really articulate it. Not to say like this is what the art of DJing is, because again, like I said, it's all different to every other person out there. But yeah, there is an art form to DJing, and it's doing the basics really well, but also having a bit of sauce. Just be cool with it. Basically, that's the only thing I can really say.
Yeah.
To me, creative DJing is the art of DJing. So I can think of examples saying like I could get a Dr. Dre instrumental and then have the a cappella to that song on the other deck, and maybe I'm bringing the a cappella in earlier or later than it would be on the original song, or I'm triggering cue points on it. You can manipulate different elements of tracks, because a lot of hip hop is like sample based.
Something like
The Jay-Z and Beyonce Crazy in Love. I think the original track to that is
the Tri-Light.
Something like that. Yeah, it's
You could have that playing
playing the sample and then playing the original,
and then come into the original, and
that sort of thing. I think is the art of DJing and creative elements, and people would be impressed by, because they probably don't even know that Crazy in Love is that song. It's hardly different at all.
that's what kind of helped me understand more about music, and also develop more of a taste in other things and develop a knowledge in other genres, is because hip hop is so rooted in samples that you then pick up this knowledge. One of the earliest joints, Rapper's Delight, it's a Chic sample. Like,
yeah,
and then kind of understanding, all right, cool, these Tribe Called Quest records sample jazz records, and we discover more about jazz music. All right, now I've got a jazz library here and I know all these samples. That's the same with like funk and soul, reggae.
House is all old disco.
Exactly, and even going back to like block party days, like the Cool Herc, and like, they were just trying to find that one drum break off the record, that instrumental bit that they would back you and loop and stuff, just to kind of keep people dancing. And that might have been anything from like a funk and soul record to like a country and western record just for the drum break, or a rock record like Rush or something. You know, even like Jay-Z's used like a Rush sample for Takeover, I believe. I think hip hop and being a hip hop DJ does lend itself very easy to kind of learn to play other genres. That's kind of like my sort of philosophy on DJing, is that if you're like a techno DJ, for example, that's just going to be your world, like techno. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really kind of see techno borrowing from like, you know, disco records or old funk and soul records. Whereas if you're like a hip hop DJ, you've got this whole mass of stuff, like even popular culture and TV shows and film scores that it's, you know, sampled and stuff over the years. And being able to kind of dip in and out, I think, you know, hip hop DJs are the original open format DJs, because you can go off on these tangents. You can play hip hop, you can play R&B, but you can play the reggae sample from a hip hop track, and off of that you can go into a little dancehall segment, go into the dancehall sample that was sampled in a hip hop track, back into hip hop, into a disco break, up into house music. You can really kind of take people on a journey.
Yeah, if you wanted to be creative in techno, if you had like I don't know, 16 bars of just a hi-hat, so like a track stem or something, and you were playing a song, obviously you're going to need like 3 or 4 decks for this. You could have like a different stem on it, and that would manipulate the song, and having a different hi-hat pattern on it, looping different parts.
Yeah, I think that's when it blurred the boundary between being a producer and being a DJ, because we're effectively like live remixing. I've always been like an avid Serato user. I've used Tractor a handful of times. Yeah, the whole kind of stems thing that Tractor was doing for a while was, you know, was dope. You know, being able to kind of like take percussive elements and vocals and actually remix stuff on the fly was quite interesting. People like Richie Horton have been doing that for a while, and then obviously people like bringing like, you know, drum machines and being able to like sync those with like DJs.
Or if you have the drum pads, they should have introduced that on this new CDJ 3000s. I thought that they might introduce pads. Like, that's something I actually think is missing, because I have got like a deck set up here, but when I look at that, the 1000, what is it called? It's a controller that they do.
Oh, yeah, there's like a CDJ almost, but it's like got 16 pads, isn't it?
Yeah, that's something I think would be good to start implementing on new players, because obviously you've got cue points, but they don't have the same kind of like drumming feel to me where you can like bounce around like they do with the pads.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just how the CDJ is laid out. I mean, if you were to incorporate that into a 3000 or 4000,
Can't too big.
you know, you'd end up with something the size of like a table. I think that's why they're like, hey, let's just put it on a different unit and charge you guys a lot of money, then you go and buy it. But no, I mean, it works as a standalone thing, because I think once you kind of go that route, you are almost putting together performance or producing and remixing on the fly. So that becomes a live show in itself. And also, you know, remixing on the fly, even like Scratch DJs are doing it, where they were using like loop stations and loop pedals and drumming a beat, you know, from scratching and then looping that and adding layers and stuff. That's one other thing that you know, turntablists are doing in like the early mid 2000s. Unit was doing that back in like the mid 2000s, you know, when he was like competing in DMC competitions and that. So there's definitely a lot more than just playing records. There's so many things you can incorporate into a DJ performance these days. It's mad. And I know like a lot of people slate technology, and you have like 40-plus-year-old like vinyl fanboys on Facebook, like, you know, little hate brigade going, I learned to mix on vinyl. Congrats. You know, that's great. Most of the music that you listen to doesn't get pressed on vinyl no more, so what the f gonna do? And controllers are the new DJ in a box setup. If you're a kid who wants to get into DJing, you're not gonna spend £600 each or £500 each on a Pioneer PLX. You're not gonna spend like a grand buying a pair of turntables and like a grand buying a mixer. You're gonna buy a cheap £200-300 controller similar to my Newmark package and learn that way. And if you get better and you really like it and you want better equipment, then you're going to upgrade if you're serious about it. And then if you kind of, you know, bored of it, then all right, you're going to sell your controller and whatever, or just like DJ some house parties for your friends and stuff. So
Yeah. There are so many more cons to vinyl DJing. So many more. Like, it gets scratched. You can't carry around as much as you can with digital music. You can't organize it unless, of course, you're doing like digital vinyl. The only good pro that I heard in favor of vinyl over digital was actually from DJ Swerve, because he was saying to me that when he was a vinyl DJ, few DJs had certain vinyl records. So he was saying essentially there was kind of less competition, because you had to have the records. So if people didn't have them, and there was like 12 of you in London who had them, you were the ones getting booked because you had the goods. Whereas now, if I can get it, you can get it. That's basically been the only plus I've heard in favour of of vinyl.
That's the thing, like, and I think that's kind of what separated everyone because of like everyone had their own niche and their own taste. So I was always like straight hip hop, but I had some R&B records because I knew I needed R&B records and the records that I liked, I wanted to play. I'm like, all right, cool. I've got the staple bangers that I need from these certain genres, but I specialise in hip hop, so that's my thing. But I've got the other bits and pieces. I might get the promo. I might be able to go to Uptown just before another DJ gets there, and I've got the last promo. Wicked. I've got it now. He hasn't, so he's got to wait another 2-3 weeks before they either get another restock or before it comes out on a proper release or something. So there was that, people had like the staple bangers, but other people specialised in certain areas because they played for the ladies and R&B. Some people booked because they had all the hip hop bangers, you know what I mean? So no one sounded exactly the same. We had some of the same records as each other, but it wasn't the same as, all right, cool, we've got the same Beatport 100 as each other now. It's weird because even with like what's out at the moment, you've got Spotify, Tidal, Serato's got Tidal integration now and BeatSource integration now as well. You've got all this access to everything, and it's almost everything out there, yeah. But everyone insists on playing the same stuff, which is crazy to me because when I was like, got all this access, wicked, I don't need to go on Discogs and pay £20 for this 90s backpack hip hop tune that I've always wanted and get it on iTunes for 79p. I can then go to Bandcamp and get like these really dope R&B flips and R&B edits and whatnot. I've now got all this stuff. It's just mind blowing. There's so much stuff out there, and especially like I said, with streaming integration, you don't even need to have it taking up space on your hard drive. It's there on a cloud via the Wi-Fi connections. Like that's what I'm more excited about. There'll always be stuff that will never be in the digital realm. There'll always be stuff that you will have to rip off of vinyl or buy the promo CD for. Do you know what I mean? But the fact that we'll get to a point where it'll all be stored on a cloud and you'll have your playlists and it'll be either on USB key or you log in onto a server via the controller or CDJ or whatever it is in the future. That's amazing because again, I can still have my playlist and that, but just the fact that you've got access to all this stuff, it still bugs me out. The only thing I'd like to see is people taking advantage of that and being able to, discover stuff and take the initiative.
I can think of why some people wouldn't.
Why?
I don't know how it is for you, but I find it really overwhelming often going through new music. So I'm not someone who just stick to what's popular, but I can see sometimes when I go through new music, I kind of say to myself, why am I being a multi-genre DJ? Because for me, it's important to stay current and be a tastemaker. So if I'm doing garage, which is like my main genre, and say 100 new garage songs come out each month, and I've got 100 to keep up with. But if how I'm doing garage, techno, tech house, drum and bass, jungle, grime, new disco, I've got to keep up with 10 genres and 100 songs a month. That's 1,000 songs now, whereas the other DJs are only having to do 100. So for me, I think it's great like you that I can get access to all this stuff, but I certainly have times where I'm like, I just find it really overwhelming, and it will take me 3 days to go through everything that's come out. And sometimes people will be like, do you have to go through all of it? And I'm kind of like, in case I miss something, I do feel like I should, because I want to have special stuff. But if you didn't want to invest that time, it would be easier to be like, what are other people playing? What's popular? Just going to stick to that. It's not worth my time to go through all these songs, because at the end of the day, I go through 100 songs. How many do I keep? 1 or 2, if that. But I still got to listen to all of them.
And the reality is no matter how much time and effort you put in and you listen to those 1,000 songs, there's always going to be stuff that slips through the net that you'll discover later down the line. So it can be overwhelming, but it's also how you streamline it as well. I do a lot of it by label. I do a lot of it by recommendations. So, if I've missed something, a lot like the future beats edits and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that, it's on SoundCloud or Bandcamp that sits in my hands. So I'll just chat to the DJ sometimes and be like, yo, anything new that you're feeling at the moment? Oh yeah, check this guy out. All right, cool. And I'll just go and dedicate some time and do that. But yeah, it can be quite daunting keeping up to date with everything, especially dancehall. Like so many rhythms can be very overwhelming as well, because 5 rhythms might come out in a week, and you got to really kind of be picky about what are the main 2 or 3 cuts on that rhythm that you're going to play in the club. You can't keep all of it. Some tunes you're just never going to play. that's kind of what makes it exciting at the same time, is all the stuff's out there. Certain things are going to slip through the net, and you're not going to be able to listen to everything. So it's always going to be like a never-ending discovery. Like,
Mate, that is it. It is.
and it's kind of frustrating when you think about it, but do you want to get to a point where you like listen to everything out there? Like, nah, like you're always going to be like finding new stuff. And I think as someone who is a music fan before a DJ, spoke to me, because I'm always going to be discovering hopefully new stuff by the time I'm in my 60s and 70s, whether I'm still DJing or whether I've retired. Like, there's going to be stuff up on the cloud and stuff that's on Discogs that I'm trying to hunt down. Like, it can be stressful, but just because you missed out on a certain track that other people are playing, no big deal, man. I mean, like, if enough people are handing you play a certain track in the club, you ain't got it, all right, cool, go and get the tune, come back next week. That's how it was in vinyl days. You weren't able to get the track because you weren't able to have it, or you didn't even know it existed because promo wasn't there when you got to the record store. People are handing you for it, and you're like, all right, cool, let me make a note of it. All right, let me go and try and hunt this record down. Like I said, it's very easy to get in that trap of, let me just see what's trending on these record pools and download that, and yeah, that will get you so far. But I guess it really depends on where you see yourself and how you want to progress as a DJ. Like, are you happy just playing in your own area, doing a few bar gigs and local club gigs, and that's your thing? Cool. Like, no shame in that. If you just want to like DJ like as a side hustle, or you're doing it just like for a bit of extra income, or you're just having fun with it, I can't be mad at that. But it's not affecting my business. So if you're doing that, you do you. I just think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're kind of limiting yourself to a top 20 every week, as opposed to all the other hundreds of great stuff that's out there that can really define who you are more as a DJ and a selector. Because how it works, man. You discover, you play that artist record, you reach out to the artist and it's like, yeah, I've been playing your tune. They might be like, oh, thanks for support, here's some unreleased stuff. Now you've got unreleased playing your set.
And that literally happened to me last week.
Goes back to the radio thing. Like, if you're in a position where you're not doing mixes for radio, there's like up and coming rappers that I'm playing on my Plus One show and on Rinse as well. I'll reach out to them and like, just to let you know, I played your track on air, da 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 da. And they're like, oh, thanks so much. And now I can DM them and be like, yo, got another mix coming up. Have you got anything that's forthcoming? Or get you on for an interview or freestyle or something. You start developing relationships with artists and that. And then whether you're not doing radio and just doing clubs, you can still do that with producers. You can still develop relationships with the artists, develop relationships with the labels as well, where eventually you're getting sent promos from the label a couple of weeks before the tune's going to come out, and instantly you're kind of networking with people, as opposed to, like I said, just 20 what's trending right now. All right, cool, I'll download it. All right, that's me done for like the next 2 weeks. Even though we put a lot of emphasis on like the art of DJing and the physical art of DJing, a lot of it's all about like putting your sets together and selecting your music and actually discovering stuff. Like, there's an art to that. You can be lazy and be convenient and play the stuff that just gets sent to you or is on XYZ site in the top 10, top 100, whatever, or you can put the time and effort in and really start developing a brand and a sound and like a personal kind of identity with this. And this is what's going to set you apart 10 years down the line from all these other DJs in the area.
That is a great point, though, actually, because it is a great way to separate yourself. As much as I do find the process very overwhelming, it is very rewarding, and that's why I do put myself through it every time. But it's a bit like going to the gym. People want to have a six-pack or they want to have big muscles or whatever. It's not necessarily really enjoyable to be at the gym or to be going running at 6 in the morning. They want to get the results. And I kind of see it like that, because the times where I've thought to myself, why am I spending 3 days going through all these different genres and spend my time doing it? But then, kind of like you, I say to myself, but I don't want to be just this guy who is just playing what's come out and is just in a bar where it actually could just be anyone there. It doesn't really matter that it's me. It could be any DJ playing Drake in here. It doesn't make any difference. Not that I'm like, everybody look at me and look at how good I am, but I do kind of more want it to be like, people want to see me as well as like come to this venue where they've Shazam new songs or that they've heard something that they didn't know about, or you've introduced them to something. And so I do think it's worth going through it. The only thing that happens to me is I'll discover some name and I'll be like, oh, this is good. And then I go on this rabbit hole where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize this person's released 10 albums, and then I have to listen to all of them as well.
One of the best ways for me to discover stuff, do you know what? Spotify. Like, I was really, years ago, I was like, man, I don't want like an algorithm to tell me what I should be listening to. Then I was like, do you know what? Like, because I've listened to it enough where it's got my personal taste, because of algorithms and stuff, which I still find freaky, but also really dope. Release radar, like I'll go on that, and then again, you know, something new pops up. I like the sound of this. All right, cool. Let me go and check out who they are. I know this artist is guesting on their project. Who's that other artist? Oh, he's new. He's a guest on there. All right, cool. I'll go down. And you start, you know, like going down a rabbit hole, like you said. And when I'm walking the dog, like it's always good. I'll just like put on an album if it's something that I wanted to listen to, and then, you know, let the album play out. Like I'll try my best not to skip tracks and that. I'll try and listen to it in full. When the album ends and it comes up with the Spotify radio dedicated to that artist, and then you start hearing like other bits and pieces. Yeah, man, it's dope. Like, I mean, I do that when I'm driving or walking the dog, or where, you know, I'm not able to kind of like do work. I just kind of, you know, fill up the time by sort of trying to discover music that way. Or like I said, having conversations with people. I think DJs really should talk to each other about what they're listening to. You know, it's not so clicky these days. Like before, people would like scrub out like, you know, the center label on their records, you know.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Or cover it up.
Yeah. And you wanted that sense of exclusivity, but now because everything's out there and there's so much stuff that, like I said, falls through the net, you want to chat to people. If I want to see what's popping in Afro beats, so I'll call up a few people and be like, yo, what new stuff is there? And then I'll be like, oh, you should check out these artists. All right, cool. I never like turn around and be like, hey, can you send me a folder of the latest 20 songs that are going to bang? Because that way, you know, like I want to be able to do my research and to cultivate my own taste and my own preference on what I would play in that genre. Yeah, I think more DJs really need to. I think DJs should really be having these discussions about what's working in the club.
I find Instagram is quite good. Most of the DJs I follow, they'll put songs up on their stories. And lots of people do that, and they put a song up, and then if I know that we've got similar taste or I usually like it, I check their story. If I like it, I'll go and look it up. But I do that a lot. Or sometimes I go on YouTube and I watch maybe Boiler Room sets, and then I go in the comments and be like, what is this? Track ID, this song. Because that's a good way to do it as well. I do get like CD or record pulls as well, but I have to set aside like time to do those ones because I know it's a long day. Sometimes charts are useful. Like most charts to me are not very good because I'm not really sure the criteria that they use to put them in the charts. But I have found that the Beatport Tech House Top 100, that actually is quite a good chart because every time I've looked at it, I've quite rated their selection.
No, I haven't really paid too much attention to Beatport charts. I mean, it's not really like my sort of world. Track source I do. Like obviously since I've been on this kind of Afro House rabbit hole recently, yeah, I'll sort of see what's in the top charts, and then again research the labels, research the artists. You know, if there's like a remix, I'll see who like remix that. And
have you actually bothered to keep up to date with your like music collection during this lockdown? Because I did see that Beatport have had a huge loss in sales because most people buying on Beatport are other DJs, and obviously if they're not having sets, they haven't bothered. But like, have you bothered to keep up to date with music?
Yeah, more so hip hop and grime than anything. And a lot of it's just been kind of rediscovering old stuff. So revisiting albums that I listened to that I might not have really felt like when I was growing up and stuff. So like a lot of 90s, early 2000s stuff, rediscovering that. And, you know, sort of thinking, oh, actually, this album's actually pretty dope. Get some tunes off of that. Most of it's just been older stuff, really. Still keep up to date. But yeah, like majority of the stuff I get is just, I just want to be able to have like a wicked 80s crate. So I've been, you know, going down like an 80s rabbit hole and chatting to like Swerve and a few other DJs about 80s boogie and stuff, you know what I mean? So new stuff, again, it's kind of slowed down a little bit, I think. You know, people still putting new music out, but it was kind of easy to sort of keep up to date with it.
Definitely. No, I think it has been important to stay up to date because like you said, you're going back and looking at old music. The stuff that's coming out now could be those classics in the future. So even though you're not playing out, some songs are always worth having. Like that Simba tune, Rover, that's come out during lockdown, and like that is so good. I would definitely be able to play that in the future.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of get to my final question then, which is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel is important for DJs to know?
No, I think it's pretty much all there, to be fair. Like, pretty much covered, I think. So, yeah.
And have you got any projects that you want to share with the audience at the moment? like your course or anything else coming out?
Yeah, so if anyone's interested in hitting me up for like tuition, just djcable@mac.com. Yeah, you know, teach everything from like beginner stuff to advanced bits and pieces. I might end up putting some kind of course or syllabus together, maybe stick on Patreon or something, tier system for subscriptions. Streaming on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. So that's twitch.tv/djcableuk. Usually stream between 8 and 10 p.m. UK time. And got a beat tape coming out hopefully in the next month or two, just waiting for it to get mastered and that, kind of in the style of like Dilla and Madlib, like sampled a lot of Bollywood joints.
Okay.
So it's almost like a Bollywood soundtrack but like a hip hop version. It's a bit trippy, so I've been stockpiling beats and that, and got a few bits and pieces out with artists that I'm trying to hopefully get vocal. Yeah, if you're into kind of like underground hip hop, then it's definitely for you. And yeah, just follow me at DJ Cable, Insta, Twitter. You'll get updates and that. And yeah, man, that's about it. You know, thanks for letting me come on your podcast.
Oh no, mate, thanks for coming on.
All good, man. All good.
Sounds like you're gonna have some Timbaland kind of tunes then, sort of mixing Bollywood or Indian samples and hip hop.
There's a couple of Timbaland sounding joints on there, but it's just very like Dilla, Madlib, Derringer style stuff. There's like quite some dark on there, but also some mad trippy stuff, and then there's kind of like some Timbaland sounding bits. So it's all just kind of sketches, like anything from like loops and simple ideas to 2-minute instrumentals. So yeah, there's definitely like a mixture of bits and pieces on there, but how I kind of put it together was sort of, it sounds kind of cinematic because obviously I sample movie scores, so each track has got like a different like scene name or something. So kind of create these imaginary soundtracks for films that don't exist. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a bit of a weird idea, but
No, mate, that's a good idea. I've always thought that I would like to do something like that in the future, like film scoring.
mm-hmm.
You could make it for Top Boy or something, the next series.
Yeah, could do. I mean, yeah, it'd be dope. It'd be dope to get into music supervision. That's kind of what I want to sort of get into as well. I actually like soundtracking movies and sitting there being like, cool, let's put this Jay-Z tune at this point in the movie.
Have you heard of masterclass.com?
Yes, yeah, I have. Yeah, the Hans Zimmer one.
Yeah, you should check them out. There's a few of them on there, sort of like courses. They give you an idea of how to film score. All right, cool, man. Thank you so much for giving me your time.
Anytime, bro. All good.
That was great. Thanks for your insights and your knowledge. And hopefully we'll connect again soon.
Yeah, for real. No doubt. Yeah, keep in touch, man, for real.
Hopefully I'll have a residency on Kiss soon.
Yeah, never know, man. Shoot your shot. It's all good.
Thank you so much again, all right?
No worries. All right, peace.
See ya.